Okay, The Parenting is a horror film that's on a HBO Max right now, or Max, and it really leans into its comedy side. Now, I've been on a horror movie watch all week. A lot of the movies I'm going to be talking about this week are going to be horror movies because, I don't know, there are a lot I just haven't seen, and The Parenting is one that's a horror comedy, which is a very difficult genre to write because it's one of those things where if it leans too much into horror, then it's less comedy, and if it leans too much in comedy, then you can't really take it seriously because, well, it's funny now. The Parenting really manages to succeed at both, but I will say it's more very lighthearted as far as, I think what is really going on here as far as in this film. Now, The Parenting starts out in a particular household in 1983, and there's this family there. There's a mom and a son, and there's a daughter. And the mom and son are killed by this very malevolent force. But the daughter manages to survive, or at least we see that she seems to be okay. So we cut to years later, decades later, and this house, which is apparently out in the middle of nowhere, is essentially up for an Airbnb kind of thing. So it's being rented out by these two guys who, they're together, and one of them is about to ask him to marry him. And they're there to meet each other's parents, they invited each parents over. Now, if you know anything about the comedy and stuff like that, generally the meeting the in-laws, ever since the movie Meet the Parents, has sort of become a genre of movie in and of itself. And you always have this thing where there's an awkward meetup, and it usually kind of ends happily once all parties involved really start to get to know each other. And that same thing kind of happens here, but it really starts to get on the awkward. The moment the characters meet each other, they say all the wrong things, and it's crazy. So it's kind of interesting. They have some well-known actors playing the parents, like Brian Cox from the show Succession plays one of the parents, and Edie Falco from The Sopranos plays the other one. And then on the other side, we have Dean Norris, who you might recognize from Breaking Bad, and Lisa Kudrow plays the mother, which I thought, okay, so we've got some veteran actors here who know their stuff, and this time they're really emphasizing the comedy here. So what happens in this case is that one of the parents, the one played by Brian Cox, gets possessed by a demon, and he says all the worst things that you could imagine. And this is one of those films in which, when bad stuff starts to happen, they're sort of crediting it to just bad things are happening. Maybe this guy didn't take his medication or whatever. And at some point in time in this film, they start seeing some supernatural stuff that they can't really explain. Now, outside, there's a huge snowfall going on, so they can't leave. Now, this is something that you have to do in a horror movie, is that you have to establish that they can't leave. Now, remember I said there was a girl at the beginning that survived that demonic attack? Well, she's the one who's renting the place, and she's drawing kind of a circle around this thing, and so the whole purpose of this is to apparently satiate a curse. And like I've said, for some reason this seems to be a theme in a lot of things, like horror movies and stuff. It's always about a curse and sort of overcoming that curse. And oftentimes it's really about finding the loophole or the one way out of this curse so you can escape the horror. And good horror movies, by good horror movies, I mean horror movies that have a happy ending, which I have to admit, there are some horror movies that just have a terrifying ending. And then there's some horror movies that end with the good guys essentially triumphing over the bad. And I don't think that there's any differentiation. That's what I meant when I said good horror movies, as far as horror movies that have a good ending. And since this is a comedy, comedies generally have happy endings. So I realize I might be getting a spoiler here, but I mean, if you really thought that this movie would end with the curse sort of enveloping this entire family and the meeting of families, you got another thing coming. You need to see more films, okay? So, I will say that the interactions between these characters are really good. I will have to say that the relationship between the two main characters, who basically one of them is trying to propose to the other, they tend to turn on each other, I think, a little bit too quickly. But I can sort of understand that. There's a lot of dopey things that happen, and it's kind of like in the movie Meet the Parents, where Greg Fokker just makes the dumbest mistakes that will totally like invalidate him as a potential fiance for Robert De Niro's like future son-in-law or whatever. Anyway, so these mistakes kind of get made. There's a character inserted in here, like a sister of one of the characters, who just kind of shows up in the film. Now, when I see films like this, I always kind of go like, okay, there must be a lot of room in this house to accommodate everybody here. There were parts in this film that didn't really make a lot of sense to me, like the main couple of this thing, the two guys, they have a dog. And then one of the parents explicitly brings 3 other dogs, and they don't really have a scene where they're all at war with each other. And I'm kind of going like, that would be the first thing that I would think about in this particular thing. And yeah, and these dogs just kind of get bumped off left and right is kind of the issue. I actually kind of thought that was kind of unnecessary, but hey. What I really enjoyed about this film is that there were certain things about it that I think were sort of parroting other films. And this idea that there's these, because there's actually spirits in this house, the spirits of the one that was killed by the original malevolent demon, they're still there. And they often appear to the main characters. And this is going to give away some major spoilers, but I have to admit, there's a scene where where they kind of find out what happened in this house. They find like an old diary or something like that. It explains like, okay, that the daughter who originally lived there got with another friend of hers and they summoned a demon. And then this demon killed her family. And she thought really she had this demon under control, but now she's trying to just kind of give it more victims, apparently. And so it is kind of interesting in that aspect, but so these spirits that have been hanging around this home and are occasionally seen by these characters, they're actually the family trying to warn them against this whole thing. And I've seen this trope in a lot of other films where these spirits show up and they look all horrific and stuff like that. But apparently then the big twist is they end up being the good guys. They're the ones who are actually trying to warn the others to stay away. And actually, I think there's a scene where one of the characters looks at this like, you mean you've been trying to tell us this the whole time? And it's like, you know, you could have done that in a less horrifying manner. And the spirit or the demonic or the demonic looking ghost just kind of goes, eh. And I'm kind of going like, yeah, you probably could have done that. So here's the thing I really like about this film. Now, this is one of those films in which a spirit has to essentially possess someone in order to live, and it's got a hold of Brian Cox's character, and they're trying to get that out. And the way they manage to get this out is the family all comes together in this circle, because apparently this demon cannot leave a circle. And at the beginning, you see that one character all grown up, the daughter who originally summoned the demon, draw a circle around the house to trap the demon in there with those people. So here's the thing. All the characters get out and they actually they all summon the demon to possess them. And so as it turns out, they're all summoning it at the same time. And it just kind of like, you know, it just doesn't really know what to do. And I think that's a really good, I think that's really awesome that all these characters really come together and they all, you know, try and stop this thing. And I think that's what I feel like there's a really positive message here. I really didn't expect this film to have this positive message, because this is a film that feels like it should be very nihilistic and very, pessimistic as far as like what's it trying to do. And it's not. It actually turns out to be this really interesting idea about coming together to separate evil. And I think that's really awesome. I will have to praise the parenting for that. It made it worth the watch. And I highly recommend you watch it too if you haven't seen it yet. And I think it only appears on Max. Might be just made for it. Not sure. But it's there. Anyway, this is Mark Rollins from the Geek Church, signing off.